All right, Raf Diallo here from RTÉ Sport. I'm delighted to be in the company of David Harte, the longtime goalkeeper for the Ireland men's national hockey team, a two-time Olympian, including Paris during the summer, and twice winner of the FIH World Goalkeeper of the Year award. David, thanks a million for joining me. And I know it's a really busy time, including today. I know you have a young family, but also the run up to Christmas is always going to be busy for any family.
No, yeah, not at all, Raf. Thanks for chatting to me this evening, and I look forward to get going.
Yeah, and as I said, Christmas is going to be busy, but for you especially, the week after Christmas, all of January as well, because it's going to be incredibly hectic with you rejoining the what is now the revived Hockey India League, and you played in it in its original run between 2014 and 2017. But when did it come back onto your radar that this was returning and that they're bringing it back to life? And was it a thing that you just felt you had to jump to?
I think Hockey India, so the governing body of hockey over there, they had been flirting with the idea to try bring it back because of the success that it had brought all those years back in the build up towards, say, the likes of Tokyo 2020 when they medaled, bronze medal like they did in Paris as well. And it's kind of, they're really riding the crest of a wave at the minute with back-to-back success like that. And the hockey players are getting just an awful lot more attention and recognition for their achievements. Still a way off, still a way off their cricket counterparts, but at the same time, I heard about this coming back officially more or less when the new president had just stepped in Hockey India, and then you started hearing rumors and murmurs, and then eventually it actually became official, and you saw you had an opportunity to sign up. And how to do so. I think we're back sometime maybe May, June, maybe, or just maybe around that time. And then only the auction only happened there back in October. So really looking forward to getting back over. I thoroughly enjoyed my experiences there. And yeah, let's be honest about it. As a hockey player goes, you don't have many opportunities like this in your career, or especially your sporting life, to financially earn what you can over there in that short space of time.
Yeah, because it is kind of a lucrative experience and sort of in a very short space of time. But there is the other side, as you've said, you enjoyed the experience you'd had before. That it is a thing that where you can broaden your horizons and do something maybe that would be a little bit out of the ordinary.
Definitely. I think if I look back on all the tournaments, the Hockey in the League editions that I played in, tournaments with Ireland, and other trips over there, I've probably spent nearly more than a year of my life in the country and still fascinated by how it all works, but also more or less just their fanatic supporters that they have that they love, getting stadiums packed and making it a big kind of event and a big show basically to put on. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to getting back over and yeah, submerging yourself in its culture again.
Yeah, we'll talk about that as well because the love for the fans comes in many different forms, I think, as well that we'll chat about. But you mentioned cricket already, and obviously India is a cricket mad country. Would the closest comparison to, I suppose, the model of what this Hockey India League is be the Indian Premier League in cricket in the sense it's short lived and it's franchises, and then they try and get the world's best players to come and play as well.
I would say so. Yeah, I think they're obviously trying to follow a similar kind of model, and I think having learned from let's just say, the mistakes that they made in the past to try and make this a bit more sustainable now that the event is going to be taking place in just the one location, maybe split over two at most, whereas before it was you had six different franchises and you were flying to play home and away legs. And this obviously I think falls in line with the FIH, the International Hockey Federation. It's kind of more sustainable future for the sport, so less flying, and also for the players, less kind of not just the travel, but also just the heavy amount of games you have to play in a short space of time. And I think the only disappointing thing is that you won't get an opportunity to play in front of your home kind of crowd. My franchise is from the city of Chennai. We'll have their training camp 1 week before the start of the tournament, which I'm looking forward to. But at the same time, it will be slightly different when you're playing in that World Cup stadium that was specifically built in Rourkela for 20,000 people to come. That, yeah, it won't be your own kind of supporters there, but still,
Yeah.
nonetheless, it should be an incredible experience.
Yeah, as you said, it's kind of restricted to two places, so Rourkela and Ranchi. So the entire tournament being played there over the month. And as you said, your team is based in Chennai, the Tamil Nadu Dragons. And you mentioned that training camp because I think your head coach, who's the former Germany head coach, he mentioned that this training camp was really important just to get and to get there early, I suppose, because you won't get that interaction with fans that you would have had, say, in your own kind of past experience when you were at Mumbai, where you got to interact with them over the span of the league itself.
Yeah, and that was really special after the weeks, and then also if you were able, obviously, to remain with that one hockey in the league team for a number of years, you got to know the same fans again for the next year or the season after. And I think embarrassing enough, there's even a YouTube video of some guys decided to dedicate it towards myself called Davy Boy. That's
Yeah,
not
I've
something
had
I'm
a
awfully.
listen.
Yeah, okay, excellent. I was hoping that might not come up, but I thought I'd tip you to it before you surprise me with it. But yeah, I think not only that, but the Ryan Van Eyck, the Dutchman, who's as you said, he's the head coach of the under 21 German national team. It's true what he says. I think when you get over there, it's always good to try and connect and touch base with those obviously local, and at the same time, probably more pressing matter and the more important side of things would to be get the team together, and that's always going to be the issue that all the 8 franchises are going to have. Literally, players scattered from all over the globe to come in, maybe a week, 10 days max preparation just to get to know each other, get to know each other's names, even, and then to try and actually follow tactical kind of plays. It always makes for an interesting opening couple of games before you start finding your rhythm and the team kind of flow. But that's what also makes it really special. You're rubbing shoulders with the best players on the planet and the most talented and upcoming Indian players as well, which is always so exciting to see.
Yeah, and I think just to get the song out of the way anyway that you mentioned, so the Heart of Mumbai, which of course is taking the spelling of your name rather than the organ that
Yeah.
we all have inside us, and lyrics like Davy Boy stands up tall just like a wall. I suppose on a serious note with that, it just does show the connection that does develop very quickly between yourself and in that case being the fans of the city in Mumbai.
Definitely, and I think it's also just out of respect as well. Those are the fans that are coming in to watch you, to pay and buying the tickets. Getting the merchandise, really kind of buying in. Excuse the pun. To actually, what it is to have the franchise team from your own city. And Mumbai was very special. I was there for the 4 seasons that I played over there, and loved every minute of it. And also, I think it was in the second season, I believe, playing with my twin brother Connor as well, which made it even extra special. So looking back fondly in that, and unfortunately they don't have a franchise team there this year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to another new challenge now with the Tamil Nadu Dragons.
Yeah, because of course you went in 2014 and then your brother, it was in 2015. Was the thing of like
Yeah.
almost you kind of selling you've had the experience, you loved it, and then you're selling the experience to him.
Yeah, I think obviously by nature, Connor being my best friend as well, and twin brother, you're on to him on a daily basis as it is. But especially that first year I was over there, just trying to keep him up to date with what it was like, how the travel was, what the culture's like, what the food was like, the hotels, the matches, the stadiums, everything that you wanted to also actually try share in person with Connor wasn't obviously possible. So I was doing my best to try and follow it up with a couple of pictures and videos, and yeah, again, getting an opportunity to walk out onto that Mumbai pitch for the opening games. I think we had our folks flew over as well, just for that as well, to experience Mumbai for the first time, and made it for, yeah, a memorable edition of the Hockey Indy League.
Yeah, and there were two franchises. So the first season, the Mumbai Magicians, and then they folded, and then Debang Mumbai came in for the
Yeah.
three previous seasons. The city itself, I've never been, but what is it that's so special about it in terms of? I think you've mentioned the food, the culture. I think you've spoken previously about the driving as well, being another aspect that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, the driver, let's go straight to that. It all somehow works. It's the most chaotic, crazy thing you'll ever likely experience. The lines on the road might not even need to be there, to be honest. It's encouraged to beep. So wherever you're out in the streets, if you're here in Ireland or in the Netherlands or in Europe or someone beeps, people will automatically be turning their heads. It's actually encouraged. You see the backs of the tuk-tuks or their vans, where it's like, please use horn, just to try and direct them out of your way, things like that. We were making our way to one of the first games in the Hockey in the League a number of years back, with the Bang Mumbai, and there was so much traffic that we ended up having to get a horse and carriage to it. It was the only quickest route that we could take to get across on the footpath. So things like that will definitely stay etched in my memory for the rest of my life. But besides from that, I think also the history of Mumbai as a city, with the colonization from England as well. They have particular monuments. The Taj Mahal Hotel. You have plenty of I think it's the Gateway of India as well, that we experienced many times. There's beautiful, beautiful areas to it. And what I really kind of noticed about it as well, it was quite a westernized city as well. Having experience, say, on the eastern coast or a bit further north, you felt like you were really fully immersed in real India, whereas Mumbai had a bit of westernized, sometimes Americanized approach, where most of the Bollywood stars would be living. And sometimes on nights out in the Hockey in the League, when you're taken up by your franchise, you were, again, in locations like that with these famous people that probably, Raf, you and I wouldn't have had a clue who they were, but they have like almost billion followers, whatever it is, across all
Yeah.
the social media channels. So yeah, that's what made it super interesting as well.
Yeah, no, Bollywood is like it's $1 billion industry, or way more than billions. I'm not sure that you'll have to add a few zeros onto that. But in
Yeah.
terms of then the strength of the league as well, from your experience there, as you said, there's an element of needing. It's they're probably not the most cohesive teams because you don't get that huge amount of time to gel together. But if you were to compare it to playing in the Netherlands where you are now, or even back in Ireland, what's the general level, especially with so many world stars being there at the same time?
It's probably the equivalent of international hockey. You'll have majority of the time your starting 11 will be comprised of 11 international hockey players. So you have your senior Indian players. Then there's a rule that you're only allowed to have five foreign players on the pitch at one time. And then the rest will obviously be rotated around. So you have your card system to be substitutions that has to go to the technical director, the TD at the side of the pitch to the benches to be like, one foreign player in, one foreign player out. If there's a chance, that we need to chase a game or we need to get a few goals or something, that I can be substituted for the two other Indian goalkeepers that are in the squad to allow us then to have five international foreign outfielders at the one time as well. So it's kind of a bit of a chess game, and ultimately trying to figure out, what patterns work best, which players can connect best together. And at the end of the day, we've joked about it before, but it can be quite true. Unlike here in the Netherlands or in Ireland, where it's a lot more structured, it's kind of almost like damage control. You know that there's going to be absolutely electrifying counter attacks, but then there's also going to be, you have to working hard on your counter defense as well. And I'm really curious to see how that all goes, and also the language barriers and the different types of cultures, whether you're from Argentina to Australia to South Africa, again to India, you name it, they're all going to be there. So I think that's what really makes this league very, very unique.
Yeah, and at Tamil Nadu now this year. As you said, there's going to be a thing of getting to know a lot of your teammates, but you've a couple of your Kampong teammates, I think, are going over as well. Dugo Telgenkamp and Yip Janssen. So that's going to, at least, there are two people at least you know the names of, at least, and you can gel very quickly with them.
Yeah, traveling, of course, with people that you know and having teammates already from your club situation, it helps an awful lot. I think also that unfortunately Duco's had to pull out due to a concussion, but I'll be traveling with Yip, who's I think last year's he was a top goal scorer in all international competitions, and he's our top goal scorer here at club as well. So that's always good to have, I suppose. I prefer to be playing with them than playing against them. And then there's a couple of other guys that you've played against for years, but never been on the same team, from Australia, from Germany, from Great Britain. So yeah, I actually just can't wait to get over eventually. I suppose the only difficult, well, not the only thing, the biggest kind of hurdle for me will be missing Christmas with the family for the first time ever, and especially the two small ones. But eventually, Daddy will explain when they're a bit older to understand, the reason why he's doing it, and for our future and for the family. But it's going to be a tough time sitting somewhere in India on the 25th of December thinking, right, wouldn't mind being back home in Ireland.
Yeah, and I suppose where you're based now, in Utrecht, the Dutch city, and of course where Kampong SV are based. I know the press officer at the club was very keen to let me know that you're very much appreciated in the city. But you've been there, I think, is it around 12 years at this stage? I think since 2012. So it must feel
Yeah.
like almost like Cork is to you in terms of being being home.
No, it will never be Cork, that's for sure. It will never.
Very important to state that.
Yes, it will never. It will never be Kinsale. But it's kind of where now, if you have family, have my wife Lynn and my two daughters, wherever we'll be together, we'll be home. But the way I look at it, that I haven't been here since 2010 in the city, played in a different club before moving to Kampong, which was just outside the city of Utrecht. So basically, in total, almost 15 years of my life here. It's definitely, yeah, my home. It's my home away from home, no doubt about it. There was a funny story. I think my previous goalkeeper coach in Ireland, Nigel Henderson, and the former international goalkeeper himself, he was sat in the crowd, I think one of the last games we played in Paris, and he just so happened to be that behind them were Dutch supporters, but they were Kampong people, and they were having a bit of bragging, going backwards and forwards, being like, well, no, actually David is ours and David is ours. And it's lovely to hear, because when you commit so much of your time and your effort and your loyalty to the club here, I've met such wonderful people, families, made friends for life. And yeah, it's hard to think that's already kind of like my last year of my contract here. So it's yeah, strange in one way, but exciting in another phase.
Yeah, and when you're kind of going around the city of Utrecht, and given you've been there so long and you're so associated with with Kampong, are you getting like stopped in the shops, on the street, constantly, or how does it happen?
I wouldn't say constantly no, but because obviously the nature, like Kampong itself is an enormous sports club. It's not just a hockey club as well. It's got soccer, it's got tennis, it's got judo bowls, it's got squash. But hockey in particular, there's almost 4,000 members. And the area of where I'm living here in Utrecht is quite a heavy kind of, like I say, a stronghold of hockey. You see, the youth kind of side of things, the junior age groups every weekend in their blue and white shirts cycling to and from the club. And then, of course, being in part as the men's first team, they'll be also there on Sundays or Saturdays watching us play, so they get to know who they are. And you might hear some shouts from a couple of people on their bikes or kids in their bike being like, "Oh, it's David Harte," you give them a wave and stuff. But that in itself is also lovely, I must say, to get the recognition, to actually realize that people do recognize you. And it's always just so important. Like, it doesn't cost you anything, but just to go over and interact with them as well.
Yeah, and then the other thing, I was watching a clip of you on a panel show on RTV Utrecht. Now, I don't speak a word of Dutch, but I got the impression anyway, you're incredibly fluent at it at this stage, haven't been there so long. But how long did it take you to sort of master it and get to, I suppose, that conversational point, and now to the point where, you're able to go on TV and you know that people are laughing because they're obviously you're making some sort of joke as opposed to for any other reason.
Well, I hope it's that it was the joke I was making and not my accent or something. But um, I honestly, Raf, I couldn't tell you the answer to that because, when first coming over, I actually didn't do any lessons. It was a bit of kind of a silly thing to do, but I went over with the idea of maybe 1 or 2 years, and you just never know. And then you think, looking back 15 years ago, and geez, yeah, maybe I should have done lessons a bit earlier. And now my two daughters are going, well, my eldest is going to a Dutch primary school, and the youngest as well now, they went to the same kind of daycare, which is all Dutch as well. So they actually learn Dutch from, we call it, yeah, the real Dutch people, because I would still probably make some mistakes every now and then. But I was always curious about languages growing up, enjoyed them as well in school, between Irish, between French, Spanish as well, things like that I just liked. But this is like no other language. You can't really directly translate. You can't really sometimes figure it out. And the expression of double Dutch really truly exists. So I don't know if I ever have mastered that, but it's nice to see. I think they appreciate it and they respect it a lot if, someone as a foreigner coming in to be in their country, while they have incredible English, they also obviously see the effort that you make to try and integrate yourself into society and into the culture and to learn the language, which they know, of course, already isn't easy. But I certainly have been trying my best, and I'll continue to do so for as long as we're here. Also for my two daughters' sake as well.
Yeah, and obviously on the field, you'd won the league a couple of times before already, but last season you won it again. But a very different experience because this time you're a parent, as opposed to the first time where you weren't.
Yeah, I think, yeah, well, naturally having, like, your close family, so like my wife and my two kids there, was a unique kind of moment in itself. But also as the years go on as well, it's taken its toll a bit more on its body than it did say back in 2018. But at the same time, yeah, an indescribable feeling at home here in Utrecht, playing the second game against Rotterdam, to do what we did. Teammate, who we discussed a bit earlier, Yip Janssen, scoring the winning goal with about a minute and a half to go. And having that moment, I can just remember looking up to the crowd to try and pick out my two daughters, surrounded by, I think there was a 6 or 7 thousand, like a sea of blue kind of Kampong supporters there. Yeah, made it really something like a memory I treasure for life, and lucky enough to be captured with some nice videos as well from that, and loads of host of pictures from a whole range of photographers that over the years you get to know a bit better as well, and they send you on some lovely, yeah, lovely images that you forgot about, or every now and then. I think as an elite athlete, you're always really looking to the next thing, and something a bit to summarize it, I really probably haven't a good opportunity to even look back at the championship because I was so focused on heading towards Paris. And then obviously with Paris being over, haven't really also had an opportunity to look back properly at Paris, because I think it was only the guts of maybe 3 weeks or less that I was straight back onto the training pitch with Kampong again. Unlike the lads in Ireland playing in the EY Hockey League, I think they had until the league didn't start until October. But the nature of it over here, it was just straight in, and then straight away you're onto the next thing. And yesterday was the last game before the winter break kicks in. So I'm looking forward to taking a bit of stock with family a bit over the Christmas period, even though I'll be missing there. But in the build up to it, to really just enjoy those moments again.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the Paris Olympics there, your second games, and haven't been in Rio before. How did you find it as an experience overall, this time round, and I suppose how it compared to Rio on and off the field?
I probably wouldn't do it justice if I tried to explain it, but I'll do my best in words. Everything that you could possibly imagine, the likes of the village, the facilities, it was just 10 out of 10. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, a bit of issues with transport in some buses, and one bus in particular, I think before the Argentina game, going wrong and seeing our staff having to try and use their phones for Google Maps to try and get the driver back on the correct route. But sometimes those kind of things happen. But yeah, you were in there, you weren't wanting or needing anything. Everything that you could possibly imagine was there for you. Team Ireland, yeah, they looked after the athletes incredibly well. Trying to compare it to 2016 in Rio, it wouldn't really be fair. A developing country to receive the Olympic Games for the first time like that, of course, was always going to be teething problems, and there were many, many, many of them. But also, I think being able to enjoy the Olympics just that bit more the second time round, you could throw away like the kind of imposter syndrome that you might have had first time in Rio and just really submerge yourself in that unique Olympic atmosphere that's there. It's like kind of like a carnival style of atmosphere. And I made sure to myself, and I swore to myself, if I got a chance to go back again, that I would literally embrace and enjoy every single second of it. And looking back on it, I can hand on my heart say that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, and I think the nature of the fact that it was in Paris for, I suppose, from an Irish perspective, the number of fans that were there, because I was there for work reasons and around different venues, but I did get to one of the hockey games, which was the coincidentally the game against India, which I think was your third game of that
Right.
tournament,
Yeah.
and it was there were so many Irish fans there, but my memory of it, it was the heat was it's one of the hottest days I've ever experienced, and I'm only sitting and trying to sit in the shade at that stage. But how did you deal with that? Because I suppose it was almost boiling point in the Yves du Manoir Stadium that time.
It was one of the most uncomfortable warm-ups I've ever had in my life, to be very honest with you. I tried to leave it as late as possible getting onto the pitch. It was stifling. And the nature of the water-based pitches, you have almost a feeling of it's even hotter because the evaporation of the water that's been sprayed on the pitch. I was looking for any bit of shade. I think I'm trying to get behind the back of the goal for, the ropes of the net just to try and get something for you. But I had an ice bucket with me for all 5 games. That was topped up regularly by our team manager Raymond Geddes, and water bottles and ice and everything, just ice towels to throw around me. But yeah, I can remember that. I think I wear a whoop on my wrist, like kind of like a smart kind of reader, and it showed me that I'd basically hit one of the highest zones, zone one, for the maximum amount of time that I've ever done in a warm up slash
Oh
match,
wow.
and the most amount of calories burned and everything like that, just because of that, the extra pressure is being put on you. And I suppose the helmet and the goalkeeping kit and everything like that, stifling. It was like if someone said to me that's like a feeling of like hell on earth, that's what it felt like for those 60 minutes of the game. And as I said, a shortened kind of shortened down warm up of 10 to 12 minutes. But yeah, I think unfortunately moments like that you try to prepare for. We were doing some sauna work beforehand to try and get ourselves up to heat acclimatization and everything, but nothing could have prepared you for that. I think even at one stage after the first quarter or 10 minutes of the first quarter, I think my wife had to leave with my two daughters because there was no shade in the Yves de Manoir Stadium, in that second stadium. And it was just, yeah, people were passing out, and I saw a lot of ambulance people around, helping with people with dehydration. And, oh, it was just, yeah, everything that you could imagine could have happened because of that heat. It certainly did on that occasion.
Yeah, and like I can remember because it was the night. I think it was the same day. It was earlier in the day that Daniel Whiffen then went on to win gold later that night, which is where I was for the rest of that day and evening. And then I was very tempted to jump into the swimming pool there in the over in
It's
the
so
defense arena, which would have been illegal and not allowed. So I left that temptation behind. But you mentioned the village life and everything else, and the likes of Daniel Whiffen, other sports people. Like you're there specifically for hockey, but you do get to interact with people doing different sports at a very elite level. That must have been kind of cool as well with the rest of Team Ireland and I suppose other nationalities as well.
I think that's the coolest thing about it. It's not very often, in particular for us as hockey players, you don't play in too many multidiscipline events. Usually, you're at a European Championships or a World Cup, and it's all just hockey, hockey, hockey. So this time you do have an opportunity to connect with not only athletes from your own country, of course, but you get an opportunity to stargaze at all those famous athletes walking around, from Jamaican sprinters to USA track and field to some of the tallest, most unique shaped sporting bodies on this planet, and that's what makes it so magical. Having the opportunity as Team Ireland, also within the actual village itself, in the Team Ireland accommodation, you had the shared kind of upstairs rooftop area that we had, which was really sociable. But also, if there was any time any events were taking place of Irish athletes, the big screen was on, and you were up there, sat next to swimmers, boxers, hockey players, and that's what made it magical as well. Like I said, to be Irish, supporting your Irish teammates in an Olympic Games in Paris, and thinking life really as a sports person can't get much better than that.
Yeah, and I suppose for club and international as well in terms of the future, as you mentioned with Kampong, you're coming towards the end of your current contract, and then I suppose from an Ireland point of view, the next Olympics that would be targeted would be LA 2028. Club and international wise, what way are you looking in terms of your own future and I suppose staying involved?
Looking at it quite cautiously, to be honest, knowing, of course, that 36 years old, be 37 in April, also very realistic of where I'm at from that side of things. But I often say, yeah, age is only a mindset. And right now, I've probably the last number of years in particular, I haven't enjoyed my hockey as much ever, maybe. And also perhaps playing as freely as possible, which allows you to get the performances also that you've been hoping for and aiming for. That comes a little bit with knowing yourself a little bit better as a goalkeeper. For all those people across the different sports with disciplines who have goalkeepers, they'll probably recognize that as well. That the little inner voice or the little inner monologue with yourself becomes a little bit more controlled and a little bit more understanding and probably a bit kinder towards yourself as well. And that certainly helps. So right now, no real decisions to make anything with regards to, calling in time on my national career or calling time on club career. But I know, for example, that home will be calling on the island of Ireland sometime eventually. My wife's from Belfast, and I know that she'll be looking to try and get back there as well eventually at some point in time. And yeah, listen, I said to her, after the support that she's given me and knowing what's the future of my two daughters going to likes of primary school and those kind of things, I said, yeah, it's my turn to also to return the favor and follow her.
Yeah, and all I can do really is wish you a Merry Christmas. I know we're still about, it's actually the 25th of November, so we're about a month out anyway. And I know you've got a busy couple of months to come with the Hockey India League. So best of luck with that. And thanks very much for your time. Some very colourful experiences over the year as well.
Appreciate it an awful lot. Thanks for the chat, Raf.